Hey everybody, this is Ryan.
And this is Kyle.
And you're listening to
The Doctor's Watcher, the podcast where I watch Doctor Who and I tell you all about it.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Indeed.
So, Kyle, how have you been?
I've been all right. I was thinking about what I've been up to recently and just thinking that like the past couple of weeks have been the sort of weeks where like feels like you're super busy, but then you're like, what did I even do?
Yeah, been there.
So yeah, I'm sure I did some stuff, but nothing super interesting that feels worthy of talking about on a comedy podcast.
Fair enough. Well, I have a couple, I guess, kind of notable things that are sort of fun.
Nice.
Number one, been watching season 2 of Severance, and it is fucking awesome. Love that show so much. It's getting crazier and crazier. No spoilers, obviously, but highly recommend that one. Number 2, I've been playing a card game, computer game. Not Bellatro, but kind of similar.
Nice.
It's almost, I don't want to call it a Bellatro ripoff, but it's very, very similar. It's called Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers.
Oh, I've heard of that. I don't really know much about it, but I've heard it mentioned.
Yeah, it's very fun. I mean, there's probably more similarities to Bellatro than there are differences, but the main difference is it's blackjack instead of poker.
Nice.
And you're actually playing blackjack like against a computer opponent. With the whole like try to make it to 21 but not go over kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. They don't have like the whole, each Joker changes the game, but you can get different cards that do different things. In a sense, it's kind of like, it's more of a deck builder than Bellatro. Because there's like a bunch of weird cards. There are Jokers. There is a Joker in the game that's a direct reference to one of the Jokers from Bellatro. There's some like Slay the Spire references.
Nice.
A couple others that probably I just wasn't smart enough to get the reference, but there's a lot of like fun references and it's pretty cool. Like, it's got different like dungeons. You start in a tavern and then you can either go like upstairs to like the VIP lounge and then like this business area and stuff like that, or you can go downstairs. Oh yeah. So upstairs, if you keep beating each successive like area, you get to a place called Hope, which is kind of like heavenish.
Nice.
Or downstairs in the basement, if you keep, beating each different area, there's like an underground casino down there. Like fun little events, like you can play roulette or you can do 3-card Monty to try to get a card you want and stuff like that. And if you keep going down, you arrive at a place called Despair, which is kind of like hellish. I haven't beat it yet, but it's pretty fun. Like you unlock different cards and, on the main menu, there's like a little album thing with like all the cards you've unlocked and you can see what they do. And it's a little silly. Like you can get, you start with the standard deck of cards, that you're drawing from, but you can unlock like 12, 13, 21 of clubs, for example, or, any of the suits.
Right on.
And like each different suit kind of has bonuses. Like if you hit blackjack with hearts, you get life. And there's a whole kind of like hit points system. If you lose a round, you, like say your opponent hits 18 and you hit 16 and you lose that round, then you lose 2 hit points, the difference between the 2 scores.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. So like the hearts will give you life if you hit blackjack. The clubs, I think, does extra damage. spades gives you like shields, and diamonds gives you chips to like spend on upgrades and whatnot.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. It's pretty inexpensive, good little game, pretty good on mobile, or at least Steam Deck is the only mobile place I've tried it, but it was good there. Yeah, nice little change from Balatro, basically.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Definitely played a lot of computer blackjack back in the day.
Yeah, same here. I would say that is my favorite gambling card game. Not that I've actually played it that much to actually gamble, but like blackjack, at least you can have a strategy. You're not trying to like read people's emotions and tells and whatnot, because I suck at that. You're just playing against the house, and the house will always do the same thing. They're pretty much, they're going to like hit below 17 and they're going to stand above 17. And, there's a few little like changes here and there. Sometimes you get a bigger payout if you hit blackjack or, that kind of thing. But
right.
It's pretty simple, and you can have a strategy. And there's even like, you're not supposed to count cards, but it's not technically illegal. So you won't go to jail for it, but they will throw you out of the casino if they figure it out. So I don't know. It's fun. I like blackjack.
Yeah.
Also, really quick before we get started, I do have a joke prepared.
Nice.
Yeah. So, the other day I went to a how not to get scammed seminar. The host didn't show up.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a joke that could very easily actually happen in reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like a joke genre, like the seminars. Like, for example, I went to a premature ejaculation seminar. Everyone came early.
Nice.
I don't know. There's probably 5 or 6 others that I can't think of right now, but I like that genre.
Speaking of going to seminars, shall we continue our seminar on Doctor Who?
Indeed. I'm excited because we're starting a brand new series, or not season, series.
Serial, yeah.
Serial, that's right. So I'm excited to see what this new one will bring.
Yeah, so this is episode 15 of season 4 and episode 1 of the Highlanders.
Ooh, there can be only one.
Yeah, unfortunately, or I shouldn't say unfortunately, there can be only one, but there's more than one episode.
Only one series, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
Even though there is more than one thing called the Highlander. Maybe
Very
there can
true.
be only one is just kind of a lie.
So the written by credit on this serial is kind of interesting. It's officially credited to Elwyn Jones and Jerry Davis. What I read online was that Elwyn Jones was commissioned to write this, but ended up basically being too busy with other commissioned work from the BBC and didn't actually do any work on the serial at all.
Oh, geez.
So I'm not sure why he's credited on it, but Jerry Davis, on the other hand, was script editor at the time. So had some work on basically everything. And he wrote The 10th Planet with Kit Pedler, and he's got a couple more serials coming later as well. So
cool. Okay. Nice. Well, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
So how did you watch this one?
This is a missing episode. So
Ooh.
I went for the loose cannon reconstruction. It's, for some reason, it wasn't available on the site that I typically watch the reconstructions on. But if you search for it, you can find it elsewhere online. The version I found of this, or that I watched this episode of, actually had some spoken narration in addition to like the sort of on-screen captions of, sort of action captions that the loose cannon will include.
Huh.
But I don't think the spoken narration was actually part of the loose cannon reconstruction, because I've also found other versions that didn't have it. So I think it was like somebody else doing spoken narration on top of the loose cannon, which was a little bit weird. I don't know.
Yeah, like some fan edition or something. Like, did it elucidate anything or like add anything to the story, or was it just kind of there?
It was mostly just kind of there. It probably, I think in maybe a few places, it made things a little bit clearer what was happening than if it was just the images and captions from loose cannon. But yeah, I don't think it was really that necessary.
Interesting choice, whoever did that.
Uh-huh. And yeah, so given that I watched the loose cannon reconstruction, I did not actually see some of the work of the director, Hugh David, who also directed another serial in season 5. So get to that one eventually. But one interesting thing I read about Hugh David was that he was also an actor and was actually offered the role of the first Doctor, but declined it.
That's interesting.
Uh-huh. I guess he was offered the role by Rex Tucker, who is, I guess, heavily involved in the pre-production of the show, but like the show's actual first producer, Verity Lambert, thought that Hugh David was too young for the role anyway, so...
Yeah, you kind of need, or at least for these older Doctors, it just seems like it'd be weird with like a not old guy.
Yeah.
Although the newer Doctors, I do remember being like, when they regened, they were like, whoa, I'm young.
So did we have a cliff dangler in the last one? I don't remember if there was really that much of anything.
I don't really think so. They kind of wrapped up. Well, we kind of had one, but I don't think it'll probably be really cashed in, because like after they TARDISed away from the planet they were on and they thought they'd wiped out all the Daleks, there was that one left that looked like it was dead, and then it like moved its like gun arm or something like that. Yeah, its arm
moved or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not too much of a dangler, really.
We're definitely not following up on that in this serial. I suspect that you're right that we will probably never follow up on that.
Yeah, that's what I guessed, but I still like it. It'd be fun if they cashed it in somehow.
Yeah, so this one opens, as the name of the episode might suggest, in the Scottish Highlands in the mid-18th century. There are apparently some Scottish clans in the area who have just lost a battle with some English and German regiments. And a group of Highlanders are basically fleeing from this battle scene.
Skirts a flapping. Kilts a flapping, I should say.
The TARDIS materializes, meanwhile, and Ben and Polly and the Doctor all step out. Polly says that it's cold and damp here, but Ben thinks they're back home. I think, the cold and dampness, he's like, there's no other place it could be than England.
Nothing's this miserable.
Uh-huh. Polly's just like, oh, whatever, we'll ask the doctor and see what he thinks. And then they all they hear the sound of an explosion in the distance, and a cannonball flies over their heads. The doctor's basically immediately ready to just head back to the TARDIS and GTFO, but Ben and Polly don't want to leave this time because, it seems like it might be England.
Doctor, you don't want us to think you're afraid, do you?
Why not?
Little cannonball, no big deal.
Uh-huh. Ben's basically already climbing the hill toward the battle sounds, so Polly and the doctor follow him. Meanwhile, over in a nearby cottage, the group of Highlanders that were fleeing the battle scene earlier have arrived at this cottage or this cabin or whatever. Some of them are standing watch and others are treating their wounded father. They established that the English basically really kicked the clan's collective ass. And now the English are basically going around to butcher all the wounded and hang all the prisoners. So they are, worried about this happening when they spot the doctor and his companions approaching the cottage. Ben has apparently found an abandoned cannon as they're exploring the area, but it's had a spike hammered down the barrel, so they don't think it's the cannon that shot the cannonball toward them earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor does find a hat at this cannon, though, and the voiceover narration that I mentioned earlier describes it as a bonnet with an eagle feather and a Jacobite cockade.
Ah. Did they say Jacobite?
Yeah.
Believe it's pronounced Jacobite.
Nice.
But anyway, cool. Okay, so like a Scottish hat, probably.
Uh-huh.
I would like a hat like this. How do I look?
Me too.
Uh-huh. So yeah, the doctor tries it on. Polly notices that it has words on it.
With Charles, our brave and merciful Prince Royal, will greatly fall or nobly save our country.
Cool.
Uh-huh. The doctor's not into this, though. He calls it romantic piffle and throws the hat to the ground. But as he does this, suddenly one of these Highlanders has a sword to the doctor's throat and tells him to pick the hat up. So he does. There's another Highlander also there who's holding a sword up to Ben. And, the doctor picks up the hat, and these Highlanders escort Ben and Polly and the doctor all back to the cabin as the battle sounds in the background grow closer and louder. They get back to the cabin, and, as the Highlanders all sort of start to question the doctor and Polly and Ben about, who they are and what they're doing here, etc., they, of course, hear their accents, and they are English accents rather than, Scottish accents like these Highlanders all have. Mm-hmm. And so they decide that they are probably English camp followers who are probably here to steal from the dead. So they decide, they should probably kill them. Seems reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, I thought camp follower was kind of a euphemism for like military prostitutes, basically.
Yeah.
Was that like a thing? They just like go and, scavenge off corpses?
I guess, yeah. I think I've definitely heard camp follower as that euphemism, but I wonder if it's like actually a broader thing than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably makes sense, because I don't think they'd be getting into that in this children's show.
That would be an interesting storyline, though.
Yeah, it would.
Ben and Polly obviously object to this idea, and especially to the idea of them being killed. And, they're all yelling about things. Polly refers to the doctor, and the Highlander lady is like, hang on, we actually need a doctor here. So the two Highlander guys aren't really sure if they should trust the doctor, but, as they're discussing this, Ben grabs one of their pistols and, starts holding them at gunpoint, basically. The doctor actually tells Ben to cock the pistol, which he does. And then Polly is basically able to take their swords and fully disarm them. And then the doctor starts examining the wounds of the injured guy and sends Polly off with the Highlander lady to go get some fresh water to clean the wound and whatever. The two other Highlander guys here are still basically being held at gunpoint by Ben. So the doctor asks them to give their word that they won't try to attack or whatever, since he's trying to save their laird. And so they do, like they promise. And he tells Ben to put the gun down. Ben's like, I don't know, should we trust these guys or whatnot? And the doctor's like, hey, Highlander's word is super important to them and shit. So Ben basically exhibits some extremely poor and lacking gun safety because he basically just tosses the gun onto the table.
Oh, dude.
And of course it goes off when he does this.
Dumbass.
He's extremely lucky in that it doesn't shoot anyone. But it does seem that some nearby English soldiers probably heard it and probably will investigate and probably will kill them all if they find him.
Oh, great. Nice one, Ben.
Uh-huh. We cut to outside where the soldiers definitely did hear it, and they have actually already seen at least one rebel, as they call them, at the cabin. So they start positioning themselves around the cabin to outflank anyone who might leave. And meanwhile, inside the cabin, the older Highlander brother decides to draw the English soldiers away from the cottage. So he just runs outside and starts shouting at the soldiers and manages to get shot several times before he eventually falls dead.
Well, those old, musket balls and flintlocks, very different from the firearms we have today.
Yeah, true. So his sacrifice, though, was entirely pointless because the English soldiers just still head right for the cabin.
Dope.
Hello, Doctor's Watcher listeners. We are your servants. We do not need guns, but we do need your 5-star ratings and reviews. No more than 5 stars to be seen together at any one time. We are ready to teach these human beings the law of the Doctor's Watcher. Back to the show.
The soldiers enter the cabin and order everyone inside to surrender. Ben objects to being called a rebel. He says that he's loyal to the king or whatever. And, obviously has an English accent. So they decide that if he's not a Scottish rebel, he must be a deserter instead, and so he should be hanged anyway.
Also makes sense.
Uh-huh. The doctor starts faking a German accent and basically starts trying to act like a foreign dignitary or something that Ben is escorting. And, you know, the GM's like, all right, give me some dice rolls. And he does, but they're pretty bad. So the soldiers just decide that they should carry on with their plan of hanging everyone. We cut over to some new characters. You know, we're like 2/3 the way through the episode. Time to introduce some new characters. And it is a wealthy Englishman named Gray, who has apparently watched this battle with the English and the Highlander clans through a telescope, you know, on a nearby hill or whatever. And his secretary, this guy named Perkins. This scene basically establishes that Gray is, I guess he used to be a lawyer, a solicitor, but now he is involved in selling other humans into slavery, and he intends to do this with any Highlanders he can get.
Nice. Seems like a reasonable progression for a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
All these fine, sturdy Highlanders, used to hard work and little food. Think what a price they'd fetch in Jamaica or Barbados, Perkins.
A pretty penny, no doubt, sir. No doubt at all.
Indeed. And I'll have them, Perkins. I did not give up a thriving legal practice just for the honor of serving King George as his commissioner of prisons.
It's weird to picture, like, Scottish prisoners being sent to Jamaica and Barbados.
Uh-huh.
Like, you know, you think of that horrible, disgusting time, and you don't think of, like, pale dudes at all.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think it probably actually did happen.
Yeah.
At least to some extent.
Weird.
Yeah. Polly and the Highlander lady, Kirsty, are heading back to the cabin with the fresh water that they got. But, you know, of course, as they approach this cottage, they see the English redcoats preparing nooses for all the men in the cabin. Kirsty is basically just getting all ready to mourn their deaths, but Polly's like, fuck that, we have to actually do something about this. So she starts throwing rocks at the soldiers.
Nice.
Uh-huh. We cut down to the soldiers, who see two wenches up on the hill. And apparently there have been orders to stop every woman because they think the prince might be trying to escape disguised as a woman. So the officer in charge basically takes a couple of men with him to go try to catch Polly and Kirsty. I think this serial is probably assuming sort of more background knowledge about the conflicts between Scotland and England than I actually have, because they sort of just kind of keep referring to like Prince Charles and like acting like we know what's going on with all that, but I don't really, other than what I gather through this serial.
Yeah. Yeah, they must be like famous, whatever, personalities, because like with my partner, I've been watching Outlander.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which is, you know, pretty okay. It's got its ups and downs, I guess. But, yeah, there is a guy named Gray. I think he's a good guy. Well, he's basically a good guy now. I can't remember if he was a bad guy before, but he is like a rich Englishman who like eventually kind of like allies with the, one of the main Highlander that's in that show. And the whole theme song of the show is about, I think, Prince Charles, or at least the Scottish prince who did escape dressed as a woman or a girl,
interesting,
or whatever, like in a dress. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. This is all like, I think kind of like season 1 stuff from Outlander. And that was like a long time ago when I watched that.
Sure.
And I don't super remember like all the intricate details. I think Gray did start as a bad guy though. I wonder if that's like historical. He did kind of switch sides and become, not really switch sides, because he's still loyal to the English king, even in the most recent season, but like he's very sympathetic to like the plight of the Highlanders and
right.
Like
interesting.
One of the, this Highlander dude's best friend and stuff. But yeah, like that's my only exposure to that history really as well. Which is kind of a shame because probably some of our ancestors were possibly involved in it.
Yeah, that seems likely. Polly thinks that the men at the cabin won't be hanged as long as the officer in charge of the soldiers isn't present. Of course, the officer is one of the guys who's looking for Polly and Kirsty now. So she and Kirsty basically take off running and, trying to lead the soldiers and the officer away, basically. Polly figures that they're younger than the soldiers, and Kirsty knows the land. She's familiar with the area and whatever. So, between the two of them, it doesn't take long before the soldiers are falling behind.
Nice.
Back at the cottage, the sergeant decides to just go ahead and proceed with the hangings anyway. He has some dialogue that kind of implies that he and the officer in charge have an understanding where the officer has a weak constitution, so the sergeant does the dirty work while the officer's not present.
Typical. Oh, I've got a weak constitution. I cannot get this job done.
So he and the other soldiers get the nooses all ready and, actually get them fully around the necks of Ben and the doctor and the Highlanders, the Highlander. I guess there's still 2 of them here. There's the younger brother and the wounded father. So they've all got nooses around their necks, but Gray and Perkins basically show up just in time to stop them from actually carrying out the hanging. It takes him several silver coins paid to the sergeant as a bribe or whatever, but the sergeant takes the nooses off and, is essentially going to let Gray take these men into captivity and enslavement. At first, Gray is only actually interested in taking Ben and the Highlander Jamie, but the doctor basically keeps using his fake German accent and starts citing this law about how foreign citizens can't be hanged without their ambassador being informed first. So this apparently is enough to convince Gray to take him along as well. He's like, oh, you have like so much faith in the English system of law and whatnot. So sure, you can come along. And he's also going to take the injured Highlander father under the doctor's care.
So he did finally get a good roll on that German accent.
Yeah, he kept trying it. The GM's like, all right, I'll let you roll again. And this one worked out.
Nice.
Kirsty leads Polly to some caves that her family sometimes hides in. And all the viewers at home start chanting, caves, 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 caves.
Another excellent chant.
There's apparently supposed to be a supply of food in the caves, but when they find this supply, there's only one wheat biscuit, and it's about 3 months old. So Polly's just like, I'm not hungry, you can eat it. She starts asking Kirsty about what would have happened to the men. They saw them, being taken away. And Kirsty says that they would have been taken to the jail in Inverness. So Polly starts making a plan. She says that they're going to need money in order to get food and bribe guards. So she thinks maybe she can sell her bracelet or something. She notices that Kirsty is wearing this nice, really fancy ring, but Kirsty refuses to part with it or let Polly sell it.
Not even to save your father's life.
He wouldn't thank me.
She says that her father entrusted it to her before the battle, and I guess he would be extremely upset if she parted with it for any reason.
That's some special ring.
Polly is like, I don't know, that seems kind of dumb, and is, kind of tries to force the issue for a minute. She, actually tries to take the ring from Kirsty, but she doesn't really try very hard or for very long before she just gives up and decides to just leave Kirsty here in the caves and go off on her own.
Please yourself. You're just a stupid peasant. I'm off to help my friends. You can stay here and guard your precious ring.
Oh, burn.
Yeah, seriously. So she rushes off, but it has gotten dark outside. It's nighttime now, and she doesn't know her way, through the area in this forest or whatnot. So she has to make some pretty rough rolls and doesn't do a good job on her checks, and basically ends up falling into this pit that I guess was dug to catch animals or whatever.
It worked.
It's pretty deep. It's, probably 6 or 7 feet deep. So it's not going to be super easy to get out. She starts trying to climb out, but she screams as she looks up out of the pit and sees a hand with a dagger appear above the pit. And with that, the words on the screen say, Doctor Who, Patrick Troughton.
Ooh. Well, that's a pretty good start. Yeah, I like I don't know, it makes me wish I knew more about the historical stuff. To be like, oh yeah, they're in the middle of the Goobly Goo uprising or whatever.
Yeah, me too. I know, and it's pretty easy to gather from this anyway, that the Scottish and the English hate each other right now, but that's
yes,
basically the extent of my knowledge.
I mean, probably around that time, what did you say, mid 1800s?
I think it's 1700s.
1700s.
Yeah, 18th century.
Probably almost the entire world hated England at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like British Empire type area. The sun never sets on the British Empire, or back then it didn't, at least. And no one likes an empire except the empire.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, interesting tactics by the Doctor. Very interesting that he just stuck to it, even though it seemed to be pretty much failing horribly at first. Like, no need to try something else. I'll just keep doing this.
Yeah, just double down, triple down, however many downings it takes.
Right. Well, cool. Yeah, very exciting. It felt like that one flew by, kind of like. Seems like there was kind of a lot of, action type shots and, maybe scenery probably going on in the actual, filmed episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there must have been a lot of that. And like, once you break it down into like story beats, maybe there's not quite so much happening.
Yeah. So previously, when we were talking off mic, I think it was last time recorded, you mentioned that there was a serial that you had started that you were really excited to talk about. Is that this one?
No, actually, that's the next one.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, this one is still fun, though, so far. So cool. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening to Kyle tell me about Doctor Who.
And thank you, Ryan, for listening to me tell you about Doctor Who.
And thank you, Kyle, for telling me about Doctor Who.
And thank you, both of us, for editing me telling you about Doctor Who.
Indeed. Yeah, like before I was involved in this podcast, and I don't know if all podcasts do this, probably the ones that are making money pay someone else to do it. But yeah, there's actually kind of a lot of, editing that goes into it. Not like a lot of edits, but like we end up hearing the episode, like first we record it and then we each hear it 2 more times after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our sacrifice to you listeners to provide a good Doctor Who experience.
Indeed.
Well, if you would like to contact us, listeners, it's the Doctor Watcher at Blue Sky.
No, just Doctor Watcher.
Doctor Watcher, yes. And the email is the Doctor's Watcher with an S at Gmail. Or if you're interested in chatting about music, that would also be Circuit 23 at Blue Sky or Circuit 23.bluesky, Circuit.23 at Gmail.
Man, online handles are getting complicated.
I know. We did it to ourselves, really. I mean,
yeah.
That's okay. Listeners should be able to figure it out, hopefully.
Indeed.
If we screwed it up on this one, go listen to the end of a different episode. I don't know.
And if you want to know more about what happens in the Highlanders, then come back in 2 weeks.
Indeed. I'm excited for that.
Cool. Well, we'll talk to you then.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
You can dispatch this one, Sergeant, and this strange-looking scoundrel.
Article 17, Aliens Act, 1730.
What?
You are gentlemen of the law?
How dare you speak to Mr. Gray like that? I'm a lawyer, yes.
Then you're doubtless familiar with Article 17. You cannot hang a citizen of a foreign power without first informing his ambassador.
Article 17, alien sect.
Who is this extraordinary rogue?
He says he's a frog doctor, sir.
German. And I know more about the English law than you do, it seems.
I'm the only law what matters to you right now, matey. And if this gentleman don't want you, you hang.
Now, wait. You show a touching faith in His Majesty's justice, sir. A doctor, eh? We need doctors where you're going. Send him along with the other prisoners to Inverness.